The world has changed, leading many to question the future of the economy and their personal finances. Burton understands the changing dynamics of the market and the economic realities facing our communities. No one can predict the future, but having an advisor that maximizes your tax advantages and helps achieve your financial goals can lead to greater stability. Let Burton's accountants and advisors help protect you, your family, and your business. Burton LLP. We listen, we solve, we do.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chava Garari. I'm an associate editor at the Commercial Observer, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to today's Power Briefing hosted by Max Gross, the editor-in-chief of Commercial Observer. Today, we'll be discussing Douglas Ranch, a 37,000-acre master plan community set to meet growing market demand and transform Phoenix's West Valley, a rapidly growing region that has welcomed an influx of millennials and new talent over the past 3 years. Before we get started, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank today's program sponsor, Burton LLP. If you have any questions today, you can use the Q&A functionality at the bottom of your screen to enter any questions, and Max will try to answer as many as he can in the time allowed. I'd like to now welcome Max Gross, as well as today's guests, Jerry Colangelo, Principal Partner at JDM Partners, and David O'Reilly, Chief Executive Officer at the Howard Hughes Corporation.
Thanks so much, Chava. Hello, Jerry, and hello, David. How are you both today?
To be with you.
Great, Max. Thanks for having us.
Great. Jerry, I love your background. It gets us in the mood for Arizona and talking about Arizona. David, your background does too, I think.
These are both pictures of the property.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So we get to see what the property looks like now. Or not now, but we get to see what the property looks like. 37,000 acres, 100,000 homes, 55 million square feet of commercial development. I mean, that is quite an undertaking. So I guess I just wanted to start with you, David. Tell us a little bit about this deal, how it happened, like how it came about, and why Howard Hughes was so interested in it.
Well, look, like any company, we're trying to leverage our core competencies and what we do really well and expand that across multiple locations. And while we have no shortage of opportunities within our existing portfolio, which already has 50 million square feet of commercial entitlements and thousands of residential acres to sell, when we saw the opportunity to partner with someone like Jerry and JDM on something that would be our largest MPC and do it in a market that is squarely in the path of growth, we wanted to jump because we knew our core skills at Howard Hughes, which is developing incredible master plan communities, not just bedroom communities, but places where people work, live, play. We have as many jobs in our communities as rooftops and create that idyllic lifestyle. And if we had the opportunity to do it again in a shovel-ready MPC where they're knocking on the doors with incredible demand to meet in terms of new residents, new industrial, new single family for rent, we wanted to jump.
Mm-hmm. How did you come across it, though? Is this something that was pitched to you guys, or were you always interested in like Phoenix and looking in this particular area?
You know, over the time that I've been at Howard Hughes, we have been looking at a lot of different master plans and tracking them for time. But luckily for us at this time, we got a call from Jerry, and Jerry and his colleagues came knocking on our door, actually, looking for a partner to try and execute a project as massive as Douglas Ranch.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, tell us, so it's my understanding that you've been in Phoenix for 50 years, is that right? 40? You said it was.
Yeah. 1968 is when I arrived from Chicago, and it was quite a different community. It was kind of a Wild West, if you will. 700,000 people in the valley, and today there's 5.5 million people in the valley, which tells you just how much growth there's been. So yes, I've been part of that growth in so many ways in terms of all the things I've been involved in. And my partners, Mel Schultz and David Eaton. So we're longtime residents. We bought that property 20 years ago. And it was never a question of if, it was only a matter of when this thing would come to us as it relates to development. And quite honestly, Max, today, all the stars are aligned. We just felt with the growth that's projected, the growth that's taking place, the county is the fastest growing county in the country. Buckeye, where the project is actually located, is the fastest growing city in the country. And there's another 1 million people expected over the next 8 to 10 years. So the stars are aligned. We're ready for this kind of a major play, and we needed a partner, quite honestly. And who better than the number one master plan developer in the country in Howard Hughes Corporation. So it was, I like to say the stars were aligned and we're a great team.
For sure, for sure. But Jerry, going back for 1 second, like, so 50 years ago, 1968, that's like 53 years ago at this point.
Right.
How did you know that this was like, all right, you come there, Wild West, empty desert? Like, you know, what was your thought? Like, you know, how did you think? I mean, that's quite a chip to put down on the table. It's like, well, this is going to go from 500,000 to 5 million or something like that. I don't know the number you said, but what did you see there that others did not see?
Well, I came from Chicago. I was part of the Chicago Bulls startup in 1966, and I was a young guy. I was 26 years old. I was recruited to go to Phoenix and start the new NBA franchise. We named them the Phoenix Suns. What I saw on my first trip to Phoenix was a blank slate. In other words, I saw the ability, potential to kind of draw my own portrait, which is really the same situation that now exists with Douglas Ranch. We have all this property. We can draw anything we wish, you know, in terms of the total development itself and all the bells and whistles. So I'm always have been a very positive person. I jumped at the opportunity and have been a big part of the growth of the city and of the state and all the things that I've been involved in on the court, on the ball fields, and in the boardrooms. And so I've kind of looked at it as my personal baby, that being the city, the state, and representing them on the international stage as well as domestically.
Mm-hmm. I want to come back to sports, because I actually have a theory that sports matters actually a lot in terms of these cities and, like, you know, how they get off the ground. But before we do, the blank slate question it's absolutely right. It was a blank slate then, and then, you know, 37,000 square feet, 37,000 acres, excuse me, is such a blank slate as well. Tell us, David, just a little your thinking about, like, why now? So you get this call from Jerry. You know, you have this plan. Tell us why Phoenix and why now really made sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely, Max. And I'll start with why Phoenix. And why Phoenix is easy because of the growth that they've seen and we believe will continue to see. As Jerry mentioned, you know, it's now the 5th largest city in the US. It has grown by almost 1 million residents since 2010. It has lower unemployment average than the national average. It is one of 13 cities with 4 professional sports teams. And in terms of the products we do, for single family and multifamily need on the ground right now, Phoenix is short 630,000 units just to meet market demand. And we're going to be delivering 1,000 lots early next year on this property to home builders, trying to meet that demand, doing our part to take advantage of that. On the commercial side, it is tied as the #1 city in the US for single family for rent growth, and has currently 24 million square feet of industrial under construction as well. All products that we'll be building as soon as we possibly can within this 37,000 acres to meet that demand. So when you have incredible pent up demand and you have continued migration of those coming into Phoenix from the coast, from the Pacific Northwest, seeking a quality of life to warmer, less expensive states, we had a unique opportunity to meet that demand in this blank canvas and to build a city of tomorrow, if you will, although that's an overused term, that will be a market leader in sustainability and technology. Because like Jerry said, Douglas Ranch is a blank slate. We're planning today for what the next 50 years will be. Unlike most developers that want to, and this is not a derogatory term, this is what they do. They build their building, they fill their building, they sell it and move on. For us, we're going to be developing Douglas Ranch for 40 or 50 years. So what we build today and how we plan and lay it out is going to influence the quality of life for that resident that buys a home there in 30 years from now. We need to make sure the roads are built to mitigate potential future traffic. The mobility strategies are accurate. It is a sustainable, resilient community that is focused on conservation of our natural resources. And we have the opportunity to build that commercial center, those employment centers, so that people that live there can work there. And we have just as many jobs as rooftops. And it's that long-term foundation of planning that is core to what we do at Howard Hughes, and I think differentiates us in terms of looking at an opportunity this large.
Now, you mentioned some of the issues that, are drawing people to Phoenix. You mentioned, I assume like, prices, you're talking quality of life and stuff like that. So do you really, so in terms of millennials coming to a master plan community like that, how do you attract millennials? So many millennials are so, ensconced in an urban in an urban environment in a city. Tell us a little bit about how you draw millennials to a master plan community.
Well, I think it happens naturally as the millennials continue to mature, age, marry, have children. But I think that was largely accelerated as a result of the pandemic. And the largest segment of home buyers across our master plan communities, starting when the pandemic, has been millennials. And that is a substantial shift in what we saw pre-pandemic. And in our foundational research, and we're surveying over 1,500 millennial new home buyers within just our communities alone, they're looking for quality of life. And that's what we're delivering. That's how we're attracting them. And that quality of life to them is defined with personal success by having time with their family, professional success with a short commute right down the street to work within the master plan community, access to wide open green spaces, trails, and nature, great education and school systems, and less traffic, easy mobility. All things that are core to the Howard Hughes master plan communities that we're delivering to all of our residents, not just millennials, but those are the factors that are so attractive to millennials right now and why they continue to flock into these master plan communities, trading in that dense urban lifestyle, small apartment, perhaps higher crime than what they've historically been used to, for safety, security, outdoor green spaces, but that same walkable urban core within our master plan city centers that they've experienced living in San Francisco or New York.
Jerry, I want to get a little bit of your take, coming from sports. So we talked a little bit about sports teams and their importance to a community. Could you talk a little bit about that? How important are sports franchises to sort of stoking interest in cities and whatnot, in your opinion?
I can tell you a little bit about my personal experience because I went through it. I wrote a couple of books. The first one actually came out in 1998. It was called How You Play the Game. It wasn't the game of basketball or baseball. It was the game of life and how all of these factors intersect. I'm referring to politics, business, finance, sports, etc. And what I found out in Arizona is that I was looked to lead in the community in various organizations, always asked to be the chairman of various things. And as a result, I was able to leverage my position through sports to better make our community a better place in which to live. My first press conference in 1968, when I came to Phoenix, was the community owes us nothing. It's up to us to earn the respect and support of the community by how we conduct ourselves, not on the court, but in the community. Do we make life better for our families and for the people who are coming? And so that's always been my mantra and our mantra. And so when you have people thinking that way, the ball keeps rolling. And I want to mention something that when you and David were just talking about a couple of things, that there was an article today back in Phoenix about we're the next Silicon Valley. That's how big things are going in Arizona right now. There's the workforce. There are companies moving here like you can't believe in terms of looking for new homes, new opportunities to build. And we're situated in the West Valley of Arizona, of Phoenix, in Buckeye, where there's available space and land. And so you're going to see an incredible growth as these companies continue to come in. The Arizona Commerce Authority replaced the Department of whatever it was to solicit companies to come to Arizona and create jobs. And I was asked by the governor to lead that effort. We went from being one of the poor states in the country to the top 5 in terms of soliciting companies and creating an atmosphere where companies wanted to move there. And so we went to the legislature. We got a commitment financially to create a bucket of incentives so that people would be inclined to take a shot at coming to Arizona. It's all happened, and it's just continuing to roll. And I don't see anything in the future to stop this. It's going to be an incredible next decade or two of growth as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. In terms of like who they've been luring, like how do you, like in terms of this gets a little bit back to what we were talking about just a minute ago, David, just in terms of luring millennials. Luring brands is such an important part of these things. Luring restaurateurs and other things to come there and to make the quality of life better. I imagine that that's going to be part of your guys' mission over the next few years. Is like getting some of these people like intimately involved in the project too. Is that right?
So I believe that's true. And I think David feels the same way about that. I keep saying it's a team. Yeah, we have a team between David's group and our group, JDM, to take the lead and kind of create all these opportunities. But there are many people who want to jump in. Success breeds success. People want to follow the leader, if you will. And I think, as evidenced by the announcement that took place about our deal when it was announced a month ago, whenever it was, immediately there was a response. I mean, big time response nationally of people who wanted to sign up, for lots and homes, et cetera. And over the next 2 or 3 days, I think we had a couple hundred opportunities right there in itself, which is evident that, if we do what we say we're going to do, I don't have any question about what's going to take place, the final result. And there's another little segment that I think is important. David mentioned infrastructure. Interstate 11, which is a major designated freeway that will connect Las Vegas and Phoenix as part of it. The only 2 cities in America of 1 million population or more that are not connected by an interstate. But more importantly, Interstate 11 is going to connect Canada with Mexico, and it's going to go right through Douglas Ranch. When you look at the infrastructure needs in the western part of the United States, trust me, we are deficient. Interstate 5 in California runs the north-south corridor, is on overload, and there needs to be relief. Interstate 11 will be a part of that. And so when that actually becomes a reality, I'm referring to construction and arranging for the financing. Nevada has already taken care of their piece of that. And so it's coming. And that will have a major play and a major addition in terms of value for Douglas Ranch.
You'll pardon my ignorance about this, but is this part of the infrastructure legislation that was recently passed, the Highway 11?
Well, there
Highway
are
11.
people.
Go ahead, Jerry. As I say, Highway 11's been in the works long before this infrastructure bill.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Is the infrastructure bill going to be affecting this part of Arizona at all, or this project?
Well, fortunately, we have some leadership in Congress that is fighting to make sure we get our fair share in Arizona because there's a real need. I mean, where should money go? Yes, repairing bridges, repairing the existing infrastructure, but we must account for and provide for where all the growth is going to be. The growth is west of the Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
No question about that. And really, when you think about what's happening today, there's an exodus out of California. Quite a few people have moved to Arizona, to Texas, to Nevada. There's a big change taking place in America today, but it all comes back to when you have what we have in Arizona, there's so much appeal that this is a place to live, work, and play. And when you have 37,000 acres to play with, work with, you can give them a great experience.
Yeah, it goes back to the earlier question, Max, in terms of desirability and how we attract. Phoenix has, like we've talked about earlier, grown incredibly fast. It defied expectations. But despite that rapid growth and the amount of folks moving in, it remains incredibly affordable. To afford a median price house in Phoenix, it's $58,000, which is less than the US average and about 25% of San Francisco, which is, it's defied gravity in that way. It's really pretty amazing. 75% of the resale homes in Phoenix are under 400,000, 50% are under 300,000. If you can get that same quality of life, the best quality of life or better quality of life than what you thought you had in a small urban apartment and do it at a fraction of the price, that's why folks are moving, and they're moving in droves.
Is this going to be in line with those prices, or is this going to raise the median price?
Well, look, I think our job is always to meet the deepest pockets of demand.
Sure,
so if there's demand for homes, starter homes in 200,000 range, we're going to build to meet that demand. If there's demand for 750,000 or up or custom, we'll build to meet that demand. But our job is to meet demand and drive velocity. And we can drive velocity by having the widest range of price points available. Just like we do in all of our other master plan communities, we try to access every potential buyer in the market.
David, this was a question that that I asked to Jerry, but I would like to also get your take on it. I know that South Street Seaport is not a master plan community exactly. It's something very different, but it was so curated in terms of how you guys did a whole entertainment section, a whole dining section, all these things that went into South Street Seaport. Because actually, I walked past it last night. Restaurants were full. I couldn't get a table anywhere.
Actually, you know a guy. You should have called.
I do know a guy, but I am curious, that curation aspect of it. Do you have any plans that you can share at the moment?
Look, to say that it's formulaic and that there's a set X, Y, or Z at a certain percentage to make a great community, I think just doesn't do it justice. It is somewhat programmed and planned, but it also has to be flexible, nimble, and morph to meet the demands of those residents. It's clear that we need to have arts and culture. They have to be core to everything we do. How we address it, whether it's a performing arts center or a museum or some other way, not sure the right answer. Sports become a great part, and whether that's just youth ball fields or a minor league stadium or a spring training baseball facility, TBD, but we'll address it in some way, shape, or form. Transportation with I-11, access to airports, and great education. That's all part of it. And that's going to come from a mix of public, private, and charter schools like we've done in all of our other communities. So it's not, so prescriptive that I can tell you exactly what it will be today, but the general blueprint is there. We just have to refine the details of that blueprint like you do as you plan a building every step of the way to meet that changing consumer demand that we'll see over the next 30 years.
So, David, this is considerably larger than any project the Howard Hughes has done before. Is that correct?
Yeah, our largest master plan is 28,000 acres. At 37,000 acres, this is our largest. It's just under 3 times the size of the island of Manhattan. To kind of
wow, let's put it in perspective. Yeah. So how do you tackle a project like that? I mean, what's the beginning of all right, so the beginning is you guys have signed a deal. What happens next?
Well, first things first, we're in the process of putting in the roadways and infrastructure to unlock the first phase of Douglas Ranch, which is called Trillium. It's the first 3,000 plus acres. And there we're going to be selling 1,000 lots early next year to home builders. Those home builders will put in the homes, residents will move in, and we need to deliver great parks, great amenities, great schools, all the things that come along with moving into a neighborhood. That's the beginning stages. And the beginning stages of a master plan is called the first 10 years. That's when we're really in our infancy. As we grow up and we hit year 10 to 20, that's when the needle really turns and you shift from primarily residential development to a great mix between residential and commercial. And then as that master plan gets into its final years, like we're seeing in the Woodlands, where we don't have any more residential land to sell, but we're doing millions of square feet of commercial development to continue to amenitize these communities, that's when you're kind of in the later stages. And it's a very much a self-fulfilling cycle, Max. And you mentioned bringing in great restaurants and great cultural activations and other items that make communities great. The more residents we have, the more demand for those type of amenities. We build them and develop them. And the more we build them and develop them, the more people want to live in those communities. And that self-fulfilling value cycle goes on and on and on. It's what we've experienced across all of our communities for decades.
Mm-hmm. How are you, I don't know, does Howard Hughes or does it have to get a lot bigger to do a project like this, or does it, are you just like contracting stuff out?
We have the in-house talent and team to execute on a project like this. We'll need a handful of folks, another 8 to 10, but we're not moving the dirt. We're hiring contractors to do that. We're not laying the fiber or the water systems. We're hiring contractors to do that. Right. We're the developer. We're the master planner. We're designing, we're laying out, and then we're empowering those that have the capability to execute on the development. For us, it's a very scalable organization. We're able to take on 37,000 acres for the next 40 years, and we're going to add probably 8 employees over the next year to do so. We're blessed that the head of our horizontal development for our 3 master plan communities in Houston grew up in Phoenix and wanted the opportunity. So Heath Melton is going to be the president of the Phoenix region. He gets to go home. That local expertise is critical to success. And he's someone that has been developing thousands of lots across 3 master plans in Houston for almost 8 years now.
Terrific. So, all right, I want to ask both of you guys a question just about doing a master plan community in a time like this, in a time like, where so much about the home work experience is just suddenly overturned. There was a lot of talk in the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, that, suburbs would be, where things would now move to, that this is where, exurbs would be where people would want to live, that there would be now satellite offices, or that maybe offices would become obsolete and that everybody would be working from home. Could you both take us through a little bit of how you guys are viewing the residential, the office, and their relationship, and how that has, I guess, been affected by, the last 2 years?
Max, I want to use an analogy, if I may, and then David could be more responsive. When I came to Arizona, downtown Phoenix left an awful lot to be desired. It was kind of a wasteland, quite honestly, with the exception of lawyers and government people, city, county, state. That's who was there. Nobody lived downtown. And at 6 p.m., you could roll a bowling ball down most streets and not hit anything. And being a city guy coming from Chicago, that didn't appeal to me. And I had this deep desire to really make a change. And so, if you look back on my experiences in Phoenix, starting in the late 80s, we made a commitment to downtown Phoenix. We put an arena downtown. We cleaned up a big portion of downtown, put in a ballpark, put in a theater, was really one of the driving influences, my partners and myself, in terms of the expansion of the Civic Plaza and the light rail system. People said, people still will not live downtown. if someone had predicted what would be happening in Phoenix over the next 20 years, I'm going back now. Today, it's like a vibrant, it's almost a 24/7 downtown today. And we have a ton of people living there and more people coming. There are more apartment buildings in Phoenix itself that you could shake a stick with. So my answer to your question is basically this: you have to be on top of the pulse of what's happening. And through these organizations like the Arizona Commerce Authority, who will be soliciting companies and we're on top of who's interested, et cetera, this is going to be ever changing. So what we think is going to be what it's going to be like 5 years from now, it won't be anything like that probably. I mean, that's how quickly things are changing. But if you have people involved in charge who can make these decisions, quick decisions, and ride the crest and set the tone, and I think this team that we have with Howard Hughes and JDM have the ability. We all have things we bring to the table, but I think collectively we could be a pacemaker in every way.
Max, it's a great question, and it's an interesting thought. And what we have seen across our communities is a little bit of how this next generation is redefining what success means for them. Right? When I grew up, success was corner office, New York City, London, Tokyo, San Francisco, long commute, long work hours, little time with the family, but that was success. And this generation looks at success as balance, time with their family, short commutes to work, personal success with professional success. It doesn't have to be a corner office in Manhattan. It could be a cube in Summerlin or Douglas Ranch. And I can have professional success and personal success in that same community. And that's what we're building towards today. I don't think the office is going away. I don't think it's going to be obsolete. I think where people want to work is going to change because people, having been cooped up over a pandemic, have reshifted their priorities, redefined their success, and are now living where they want to live because they feel like they can work just about anywhere. And I can find a job in a community that gives me that balance, that quality of life that I couldn't find before. Or if I couldn't, I don't care because that's what I want that creates personal success, overall success for me. And that's what a lot of what we're seeing. We saw people moving into our communities immediately after the pandemic, and now companies are following because that great quality, well-educated workforce is now moving to these next tier cities, if you will, and the businesses need to be there to recruit because we're in a war for talent, and we need to get that at well-educated workforce.
So a big part of this will be, though, commercial office, right? So how do you predict how to build for that? Because building is such an expensive and onerous and long process. Like, how does that translate? I know that that might be a broad question for this kind of forum, but I don't know. Is there a succinct way of answering that?
I think the easiest way to answer it, Max, is to say that we're going to build to meet demand the way we always do. And when you own and control 37,000 acres and you build that office building, you see what works and what doesn't and what's going to be best for that local market. And that influences the design, build, the construction layout of the next building and the next building and the next building. And it's the same thing that we're doing today in Summerlin. We're building we launched about 6 months ago, a completely spec office building coming out of the pandemic when, even you said, Max, maybe office buildings are extinct. We're almost 50% unleased or under LOI already. And it's a slightly different design, and it's meeting that changing needs and those changing demands of our consumers in the Las Vegas Valley that want an office in Summerlin. But because we have a great, best in class product, well designed and laid out with quality of air, environmental sustainability initiatives that have not been seen in Vegas before, we're seeing incredible demand out of the gate, and we're thrilled to execute on it. And now that success will inform our next building, which we're already in design.
So much of Douglas Ranch. I mean, so we've been talking a lot about the 600,000 person need in Phoenix. And this will be addressing like 100,000 homes, which is obviously a huge chunk of that, demand. But there's a housing shortage in general they're in throughout the United States. I'm curious, if you guys could both, address this. I mean, like, are you both, are you looking at various different places for this kind of stuff aside from Douglas Ranch? I'd love to get both of your takes on this shortage and where you guys are looking to meet this. Jerry, do you want to start?
This is a little bit out of my bailiwick as it relates to the housing piece of this. But again, I'll give you a little other input. Our company, JDM, has $3 billion of assets in 17 states in the United States. And our major partners in these office buildings, if you will, sale leaseback situations are Amazon, USAA, and one other that's a pretty State Farm Insurance. So, I think this. I think that we can focus on what we're doing and what the need is on our property, and people will be looking to us, I believe, to kind of follow what we do. I mean, we're aware, David's company certainly is, of what's happening everywhere in the country in terms of the specific building situation. We have not been in that space personally. We see that we can add an awful lot of value to the proposition because of our status in the community, our fingers on the pulse of what's happening nationally and how it is applicable to us. When you have the right players on the right team, you adjust. You can take the lead, but you also are in a position to pick and choose what you wish to do. The shortage exists. I understand that, but there are a lot of places where there's a shortage and people are going to move as a result of that and go where the work is and where they can enjoy life. And again, because the stars are aligned for us right now with the quality of life, the ability to live a whole different situation than in an urban setting. I think we have a lot to offer, and there's plenty to pass around. That's for sure.
David, what are your thoughts on housing shortages? And
no doubt, there's incredible demand out there. There's a shortage of housing, and more importantly, a shortage of affordable housing. And across all of our communities, where we're the master developer and we're selling land to home builders, when we sell that land to builders, we're dictating price, we're dictating size, we're dictating and influencing affordability every step of the way. And making sure that we keep affordable housing across all of our communities is paramount. When we're looking for a new community, which we look all the time, but this is, I feel, a generational opportunity in Douglas Ranch, and I wouldn't expect us to be doing these every year or every 5 years. But when we find these opportunities, part of it is to meet that need that's out there. And we see an incredible need, as you mentioned, Max, and our job is to meet it. And we're building those lots, we're developing that land to address that housing shortage and doing our part. Obviously Douglas Ranch alone can't meet the immediate need within the Phoenix market, but we can do our part.
I know that Douglas Ranch is very much sui generis. There are not going to be that many projects like Douglas Ranch, but what are some of the other markets that you're looking at specifically, David? I imagine that you've been at least looking.
Yeah, I would say that all of our markets are defined by very similar characteristics, and they are warmer, less expensive, business-friendly, access to infrastructure, nearby to a major metropolitan city that provides those amenities and airlift transportation, if you will. So any state or any area that kind of fits within those general characteristics are things that we would look at.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to touch on other projects that both of you guys are working on, and just get sort of your assessment of some of these things, and maybe a little bit how they inform Douglas Ranch, but also just like in general, like David, could you talk a little bit about like Summerlin, South Street Seaport, Woodlands, and just tell us a little bit about what those projects are and what how they're coming along?
Absolutely. So 2021 has been nothing short of a stellar year for Howard Hughes. We're on pace to hit record land sales across our master plan communities to home builders, not just number of acres, but price per acre.
Mhm.
We are on pace this year to deliver the highest year of net operating income and our operating assets across the company. And we're doing that after we sold our hospitality portfolio.
Mhm.
We're on pace right now to have the highest year in the history of the company in condo sales in Ward Village in Hawaii. And we're doing it with about $45 million less G&A than what we had 2 years ago. So it has been an incredible year for us. The demand that we've seen in our communities coming out of the pandemic has been nothing short of incredible. And our communities like Summerlin, like the Woodlands and Bridgeland are similar to Douglas Ranch, 10,000+ acres where we sell land to home builders. Those residents move in, the residents need amenities. We build office, we build shopping, we build multifamily apartments, et cetera. And we hold those assets and collect that recurring income. In Hawaii, at Ward Village, we have 60 acres between Waikiki and Honolulu where we're selling condominiums. It's a master plan community, but instead of horizontal, we go vertical. And we're right on Ala Moana Beach Park, and we're selling condos. And we just announced our most recent tower in July, and we're already over 60% sold 120 days later. So the demand there for folks moving into a vertical master plan community has been very consistent with the demand across all of our assets, which is at a record pace. And in the South Street Seaport, we couldn't be more excited to be getting to the goal line here of finishing construction on the Tin Building, which is a 53,000 square foot food hall marketplace, all curated by John George, that will be finishing construction in the next several months and opening our doors next spring to complement the Fulton, Carne Mar, Sambar by David Chang, our concert venue on the roof, and ESPN broadcasting. You know, we couldn't be more excited about how the Seaport has come alive coming out of the pandemic. And Max, you noted, last night, a weeknight, you couldn't get in a seat at a restaurant. We're seeing that throughout. And it's not just a summer spot anymore. It is a year-round destination that is attracting locals, New Yorkers that want to come out and enjoy world-class views of the Brooklyn Bridge, Statue of Liberty, and a world-class concert venue on the roof. So we couldn't be more excited about how the assets have performed over the past year.
Now, David and Jerry, I believe you both have assets in Texas. Is that right? Jerry, tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing there and why you like Texas, why that's a good place for development.
Well, we are in the opportunity business, if you will, the fund business. And we've done 5 funds, the first one being an opportunity fund. So you look for opportunities that kind of meet our criteria. There was a opportunity in Midland, Texas, to buy a particular property that we felt had a great future in terms of, the kind of housing that it offered. And it was an apartment building that has done extremely well. So we put that into our fund. We have a couple other properties in Texas, which are sale leaseback situations. As I said, we have 17 states with representation with our company involved in investment with partners, and it's over $3 billion of assets. So it's kind of a major play for us. We're a small group, but we get ourselves involved in a big way, and we partner and put our money into the deals all the time. Because we believe in what we do. You had asked about Colorado earlier. We had one of our partners, David Eaton's family, had a 26,000 acre master plan community in Pagosa Springs a number of years ago. And we kind of just learned a lot from that experience through David and his family. But it's like apples and oranges when you look at what Howard Hughes is doing and how they're doing it. So we kind of look for opportunities in terms of investment. We put money together and people together, and everything we've ever done has been done on a personal basis. We've never had someone do a raise for us. We all do it. We do it individually through relationships. My opinion is life is all about relationships, and that's been my mark in terms of everything I've ever done in business. It's through relationships.
Hmm. David, tell us a little bit about why Howard Hughes likes Texas.
Again, it's warmer, less expensive, business friendly, great quality of life, great access to education, and the Woodlands, according to niche.com, was voted the #1 place to live in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to take credit for it, but it all really goes to the forefathers of Howard Hughes that had the insight to build that amazing city from the ground up, going back over 40 years ago.
David, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit. I mean, obviously, we just mentioned Howard Hughes. We just mentioned Salisbury Seaport. One of having a blank canvas like Douglas Ranch versus starting something in an urban setting. I mean, like, could you talk a little bit about, those differences and like, what I don't know what you've learned or what could be applied in either of those conditions that would be better.
Well, look, I think having the blank canvas, I mean, just the easy answer, Max, is that we don't have to overcome hurdles or undo anything that has been done previously to effectuate the perfect outcome.
Mm.
That we can build roads today that we know will meet demand of 300,000 residents that may not be there for 40 years, or at least build the planning in a way that we could add the roads to do so. And there's so many lessons learned that we've seen from Jim Rouse, who started Columbia, which is in our portfolio, from George Mitchell that started the Woodlands, and from Howard Hughes and Summerlin. And we can apply that to a blank slate without having to say, oh, if only we woulda, coulda, shoulda. Anytime you take in an infill location or a redevelopment, you're limited by certain constraints, especially within Manhattan, within the zoning and restrictions that exist here. And it creates hurdles and challenges, and it makes it harder. But if it was easy, I think everyone would do it.
For sure. Well, what do you guys think is going to be the hardest part about Douglas Ranch? Like, what is the thing that you're focused on the most in terms of getting right?
Well, this may not be the exact answer, but when the announcement was made regarding the deal that we made with Howard Hughes, I mentioned earlier, the response that we had over the next couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And this was all about that 1,000 homes we wanted to build in the first phase. Well, the announcement was made, and our people, who we have a lot of trust in, said the builders who have already committed for that first phase, they want to double down. So rather than 1,000, it could be 2,000. Real quick, coming right out of the chute. And I think there's a great chance that would be the case. Time will tell. So I would say, I think the demand is going to be there, and it's a matter of doing it the right way as we go along. And that's where I rely on David O'Reilly and his experience, because I haven't been there before. Because they have the expertise, they have the know-how, and I think they'll know how to control it.
David O'Reilly, what say you? What is the part of this that's gonna require most of your attention?
How do we get it done quickly? How do we meet that demand that is sitting there knocking on the door and get that infrastructure in the ground as fast as possible to meet that demand? And it's a tight labor market, and there's a lot of construction, and getting the right folks there to execute appropriately and timely is going to be a huge challenge. It's a challenge for everyone. We're all living with it. I would say secondarily, the other area that maybe that keeps me up at night, but I'm very much focused on, is how do we make sure from a technology perspective that we are, I don't want to say future proofing, because you'll never future proof, but future readying this community. So we're staying flexible enough. We have enough fiber on the ground. We have the technology infrastructure throughout the community so that we can meet those technological changes, which I probably can't predict accurately, even 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And to have that infrastructure on the ground, so whatever that new technology is, that Douglas Ranch is able to meet that need.
Does, aside from just like, that infrastructure part of the technology, does Howard Hughes have like, a prop tech wing? Are you guys doing anything in that area?
We evaluate prop tech all the time. We don't have an internal incubator or any companies that we own per se, but we're evaluating those new technologies every day. And whether it's partnering with those providers in our apartment buildings, in our office buildings, or working with the home builders to make sure that when they build their homes, they're ready to go. Really important for us is we want to make sure all the residents have a gig of service, that our businesses have 5 to 10 gigs, that we're going to deliver the right access and equality across all of our residencies so that everybody has access to what should be a commodity. It should be like water or power. Internet access is table stakes, and we need to make sure that all the residents have it.
Jerry, so I want to go back just to one thing, because you've got such a great history in Phoenix. Like, what was was there like a moment that you were looking at everything that you were like, this is really going to happen, this is going to be a great success? Was there like a watershed moment?
Well, Max, my attitude has always been when I've been faced with someone saying you can't really get that done, my response in a kind way is to say, we can, we will, and we'll show you how. In other words, you don't take no for an answer as a final answer. You do everything you can to make something happen, which means in the appropriate manner, you push towards your objective. And so, it's not like everything I've ever tried worked out, but by far the higher percentage is on the side of being able to conclude deals and make deals and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I've had my moments both ways, but as I think back on all that's happened over 50 years in terms of the experiences and the business and accomplishments, if you will, for our company and our people, I'm proud of what we've been able to do. And the key here is, I'm not sure I would have been able to do that somewhere else. But when the opportunity presented itself to come to Phoenix and I saw what I thought I saw, this blank slate, I thought it was an incredible opportunity. I can make my own future, one way or the other. I didn't have to depend on anyone to make it for me. But that only happens maybe once in a lifetime. It happened for me in Phoenix.
And we do have a couple of questions, but before we get to them, David, I did want to ask you a little bit about Las Vegas. What's going on in Nevada and Howard Hughes' work there?
Absolutely. So Summerlin, which is almost 23,000 acres just west of the Las Vegas Strip, right on the Red Rock National Conservation Land, has been exploding, and it's driven so much of our positive results I talked about earlier. We're going to sell over 1,400 new homes in Summerlin, which is 12% of the market share of all of Las Vegas Valley. We're selling land to home builders at record prices, and we're moving as fast as we can to meet that demand of migration coming in, not just within the valley, moving up into Summerlin, but coming in from out of state. So many of our new residents are coming in from California in the Pacific Northwest, and they're looking again for that quality of life, great schools, safety, security, access to amenities, short commutes to work, and we're delivering it there. We're going to have, I think, the largest year of land sales ever in Las Vegas this year to meet that demand of new residents coming in. Our downtown shopping center, known as Downtown Summerlin, which is over 1 million square feet, has today the highest sales per foot in the history of that development, which has been in place over 6 years. Our 2 multifamily buildings are 98 and 99% leased. Our office buildings are entirely full, and we're building our next office building and planning the one after that, as well as the next multifamily building as we speak. It is growing at an incredible rate, and we're just trying to build to meet that demand that we're seeing grow every day. And Las Vegas has grown overall as a city, not just Summerlin, with the professional sports teams that have come in, with the Golden Knights, the Raiders, and our minor league team, which is the AAA team for the Oakland A's. We built them a stadium in downtown Summerlin. We've averaged over 9,000 fans. We've had higher attendance than the Miami Marlin in the majors. And it's a great family-friendly amenity that has continued to drive those results. It's one of those things where we talked earlier about how sports can be a catalyst. Since we built that stadium, our sales and our traffic at the retail across the street is up over 10%. Since we built the stadium, we're selling land to home builders at over $80,000 higher an acre, and we have 3,000 acres to sell. Since that stadium came in, our rents in the multifamily are up 20% and our office buildings are entirely full. And it's that synergistic event that happens and that catalytic event that happens that when you put a great amenity like a sports stadium that's family friendly and affordable, it drives growth all around it. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond. And when you do that, those concentric circles go out of value creation across everything that's nearby. And it's really, for us, a mandatory event that we create great developments, because if you drop the right pebble, you can create a lot of value.
So is there going to be a minor league stadium that's going to be part of Douglas?
TBD.
TBD?
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. We will have great cultural events. We'll have great sports activations. We will have access to so much within Douglas Ranch. Will it be minor league baseball? Will it be spring training? Will it be minor league something else? Well, I don't know yet, Max.
Mm-hmm.
But there will be some aspect of that, no doubt.
Well, Jerry definitely does have the connections to the sports world, so I'm sure you can be able to, talk to people.
I know the right guy to call.
You know the right guy to call. Well, actually, so this gets to one of our first questions here. We have a couple. Something we touched on a little bit, but maybe we can get a little deeper into this. How will Douglas Ranch encourage entrepreneurs, small business? Will co-working spaces, such as those provided by WeWork, exist here? Will Starbucks and Dutch Brothers dominate the coffee space? What about a mom and pop coffee shop? As you know, established dominating firms pay higher rents, trade at lower cap rates, yet millennials want to support local. What do you guys say about that?
I think the question is spot on, and it is the right question to ask. And I think it actually helps crystallize why we are so different in what we do. Because if I were building that one retail strip center and I had room for one coffee shop, I might put in Starbucks rather than the local operator, because I would get a higher rent and could sell that at a much better price. But I'm not. We own all 37,000 acres. And we have to think long-term about creating demand on 37,000 acres. So having the right balance between the national tenants and the local mom and pops and supporting those local entrepreneurs help make a community a better place to live, more desirable, not just to millennials, but to everyone who wants to support local businesses. Mm-hmm. And if we have that right balance and drive that right demand, we'll sell more homes and the rest of our land is more valuable. Again, we own all 37,000 acres. We're in it for 40 years. We're not making a next month, a next quarter, a next week decision to sign Starbucks at 10 cents more per foot. We're making a 40-year decision to partner with a local entrepreneur and bring a great quality amenity, a great tenant to a community, because that will help improve quality of lives, improve home sales, and everybody benefits. It's an amazing relationship we have between developer and resident. When we do it right, they benefit. It's not the developer that comes in a big fight and we want to build something terrible and leave town. Our job is to build something great because it makes their lives better, their homes more valuable, and our land more valuable at the same time.
We have a question which I don't know if we'll get an answer, but the reporter in me loves asking the question. So how will your amazing projects be capitalized?
Oh, that's easy. We paid all cash for Douglas Ranch, and we're still sitting with $850 million of liquidity at the end of the last quarter. We'll be capitalizing this with the way we always do our master plan communities, by using our cash to prepare land, sell that land to home builders, take those proceeds to build the commercial assets. And once you get going and once you get started, given the municipal financing that's available in a place like Arizona, so we're getting reimbursed through municipal bonds for water, sewer, and infrastructure, they become self-funding vehicles. And after you get through that first foray, they fund themselves. You use the proceeds from land sales to build the infrastructure and build the commercial amenities.
This is not a question I've ever asked before, but one of our questioners has a question. Arizona, I don't know. Maybe this could be a great question. How have you planned for water supply?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And we've worked very hard to make sure that there's adequate water. And we're confident there's going to be ample water for the entire community of Douglas Ranch. And the water rights have been finalized for the first village of Douglas Ranch, and we expect and intend to get the certifications for the balance of Douglas Ranch in the very near term. We've worked with and are partnering with the Arizona Department of Water Resources and are well underway in that process. And look, Howard Hughes has, I believe, led the market in terms of sustainability and environmental activism within our master plan communities. Summerlin is also in a lush desert-like, as Jerry would say, a lush desert-like environment. And the water conservation that we have done in Summerlin has led the market in terms of doing the right thing, not just because somebody said to, because it's the right thing to do. We're going to be there for the next 20, 30 years. We have to make sure that that precious resource is treated that way as precious. And those same technologies and innovations that we've done in Summerlin, we're going to apply to Douglas Ranch. And we're certain that we can create a world-class environment and respect that natural resource that is important to all of us.
Just to add a little bit to that, David, Arizona has always been a leader in terms of water conservation, in planning for the future. And just based on the track record, they're a safe bet that they're going to continue to be a leader in that situation. Max, the other thing I'll pass on to you is that under our property is an aquifer, and it's a big one. And so we have access to an awful lot of water. It has to be replaced. We think we're in good shape, but I'm very confident that the state officials who are on top of this thing, this is key to the future of Arizona, will do everything possible to provide. That's how I feel.
All right. On that note, I think we have run out of time, but Jerry Colangelo, David O'Reilly, thank you both so much for being on this, our last power briefing for Commercial Observer of 2021. Congratulations on an incredible project. We're all really excited to see what you guys do with it, and we've got 40 years to watch it. So we're gonna tuck in and wait for 40 years.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you so much, Max. Absolutely my pleasure.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Dad, Mom had such a great vision for the company. I don't know that I can keep it going.
Amy, your mother worked with Burden to develop a plan. Don't worry.
Life and business can be hard, but finding the right advisor to help you, your family, and your business get where you want them to go doesn't have to be.
Stephen, get Burden on the line.
Burden LLP. We listen, we solve, we do.